In the distant future, the Galactic Empire ruled over countless star systems with an iron fist. Its massive fleets patrolled the galaxy, striking fear into anyone who dared to oppose its will. Earth, once a thriving planet full of life and culture, had been reduced to little more than a resource hub for the Empire. The people of Earth lived under constant surveillance, their freedoms stripped away, their hopes crushed by decades of oppression. Among these broken souls was Daniel Hayes, a man in his early 40s with tired eyes and a heart heavy with loss. He had once been an engineer working on projects that pushed the boundaries of human innovation. But that life was gone now. His wife and young son had been taken from him during one of the Empire's infamous purges, roundups where Imperial forces abducted anyone suspected of dissent or rebellion. After that day, Daniel became a shadow of his former self, surviving on scraps and avoiding attention. One cold evening, as Daniel scavenged through the ruins of an old city, searching for anything valuable to trade for food, he stumbled upon something extraordinary. Hidden beneath a collapsed building, buried under layers of dust and debris, was a metallic box marked with ancient symbols. Curious, he pried it open and found a collection of data chips inside. These chips contained blueprints for weapons far more advanced than anything the Empire currently used. They were designs thought to have been lost centuries ago, relics of a time when humanity still fought back against tyranny. At first, Daniel wasn't sure what to do with his discovery. The Empire's presence loomed large, and the risk of being caught with such dangerous information was immense. But as he stared at the blueprints glowing faintly on a small handheld screen, something stirred within him. Memories of his family flooded back. The laughter, the warmth, the dreams they once shared. And then came the anger. Anger at the Empire for taking everything from him. Anger at himself for doing nothing about it. That night, Daniel made a decision. He couldn't let this discovery go to waste. If these weapons could give humanity even the slightest chance to stand up to the Empire, he owed it to his family, and to everyone else who had suffered, to try. But he knew he couldn't do it alone. He needed help, people who felt the same burning desire for freedom that now consumed him. Over the next few days, Daniel reached out cautiously to others he trusted. First, he approached Maria Lopez, a skilled pilot in her early 30s. Her brother had been executed by the Empire for speaking out against their policies, leaving her bitter and restless. She listened to Daniel's plan with skepticism at first, but eventually agreed to join him. "If we don't fight," she said, "who will?" Next, Daniel recruited Ryan Carter, a wiry young man in his 20s with a knack for hacking. Ryan had spent years infiltrating Imperial networks, stealing information just to survive. When Daniel showed him the blueprints, Ryan's eyes lit up with excitement. "This could change everything," he whispered. Together, the three of them began laying the groundwork for what would become a resistance movement. They called themselves the Ashen Vanguard, vowing to burn away the Empire's control if necessary. Their first goal was simple yet daunting: test the weapons on a small Imperial outpost orbiting Jupiter. It was a risky move, but they knew they had to act quickly before the Empire discovered their plans. As they prepared for the mission, Daniel couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The Empire was vast and powerful, and the odds were stacked heavily against them. But deep down, he believed that humanity still had a fighting spirit. All it needed was a spark, and maybe, just maybe, he had found it. With the discovery of the advanced weapon blueprints, Daniel Hayes and his small group of allies knew they had taken the first step toward rebellion. But a single act of defiance wouldn't be enough to challenge the Galactic Empire. They needed more people, people who shared their anger and desperation. Over the next few weeks, Daniel, Maria Lopez, and Ryan Carter worked tirelessly to spread the word. They moved carefully, knowing that even a whisper of rebellion could bring the Empire's wrath down upon them. Maria proved invaluable in recruiting others. Her reputation as a fearless pilot had earned her respect among the scattered communities living in Earth's ruins. She spoke passionately to anyone willing to listen, sharing stories of her brother's unjust execution and the Empire's countless crimes. Many were hesitant at first, afraid of what might happen if they stood up to the Empire. But Maria's determination inspired them. Slowly, their numbers began to grow. Ryan, on the other hand, focused on gathering intelligence. Using his hacking skills, he infiltrated Imperial communication channels, learning about troop movements, supply routes, and weak points in their defenses. He also reached out to others online, hackers, smugglers, and rebels hiding in the shadows. Through encrypted messages, he convinced some of them to join the cause. "We can't do this alone," Ryan often reminded Daniel and Maria. "If we want to win, we need everyone we can get." As the group expanded, so did their resources. Some brought weapons scavenged from old battles. Others contributed food, fuel, or technical expertise. Among the new recruits was Sarah Bennett, a former Imperial officer who had defected after witnessing atrocities firsthand. Though she carried guilt for her past actions, she was determined to make amends. Her knowledge of Imperial tactics made her an invaluable asset. The growing resistance movement called themselves the Ashen Vanguard. The name symbolized their vow to burn away the Empire's tyranny, no matter the cost. Their first mission would test their resolve. A daring attack on a small Imperial outpost orbiting Jupiter. If successful, it would send a message to the galaxy that humanity still had the will to fight back. Planning the operation took days. Ryan used his hacking skills to obtain access codes that would allow them to slip past the outpost's defenses undetected. Maria coordinated the pilots, ensuring their makeshift fleet could navigate the dangerous approach. Meanwhile, Daniel trained the ground teams, teaching them how to use the prototype weapons built from the stolen blueprints. The weapons were powerful, far more advanced than anything the Empire currently used, but untested in real combat. Everyone knew the stakes were high. On the night of the attack, tension filled the air. The Ashen Vanguard gathered in a hidden underground bunker, finalizing their preparations. Daniel addressed the group, his voice steady despite the weight of what they were about to attempt. "This is our chance to show the Empire that we won't kneel," he said. "No matter what happens tonight, remember why we're doing this. For freedom, for justice, for everyone they've hurt." As the makeshift fleet launched into space, silence reigned among the crew. Each person was lost in their thoughts, wondering if this would be their last mission. When they reached the outpost, Ryan's stolen codes worked perfectly, allowing them to dock without raising suspicion. Once inside, chaos erupted. Explosions tore through corridors, and Imperial soldiers scrambled to respond. Maria's piloting kept their ships in position, while Daniel led ground teams armed with plasma rifles. By dawn, the outpost was theirs. Its garrison lay defeated, either dead or captured. For the first time in decades, humanity tasted victory against the Empire. News of their success spread quickly, carried by whispers and encrypted messages across the galaxy. People who had long given up hope began to believe again. The Ashen Vanguard had struck their first blow, but they all knew it was only the beginning. The Empire would not forgive such an insult, and when it retaliated, the fight would become even harder. Yet for now, they allowed themselves a moment to celebrate. Humanity had refused to kneel, and the stars above seemed just a little brighter. The victory at the Jupiter outpost sent shockwaves through the galaxy. For the first time in decades, humanity had struck a meaningful blow against the Galactic Empire. The Ashen Vanguard's success inspired hope among the oppressed, but it also drew the Empire's full attention. Admiral Gregory Stone, commander of Sector 7, was furious. He had spent years crushing rebellions before they could grow. And now this small group of rebels had dared to defy him. To make matters worse, news of their triumph spread quickly, carried by whispers and encrypted messages across star systems. People who had once accepted their fate began to dream of freedom again. Determined to crush the rebellion before it gained momentum, Admiral Stone ordered his forces to hunt down the Ashen Vanguard. His flagship, the Invincible Dawn, descended upon Earth with devastating force. Cities burned under orbital bombardments, and thousands of innocent people perished as the Empire sought to send a clear message. Resistance would not be tolerated. The Empire's soldiers swept through the ruins, searching for any sign of the rebels. Yet, despite the destruction, the Ashen Vanguard refused to kneel. Hidden deep beneath the surface in abandoned bunkers, they regrouped and prepared for what came next. Daniel Hayes knew that survival alone wasn't enough. The Empire's retaliation proved just how dangerous their fight would be. If they wanted to win, they needed more than courage. They needed allies. Other worlds in the galaxy suffered under Imperial rule just as Earth did. If the Ashen Vanguard could unite these oppressed populations, they might stand a chance. But reaching out to other planets was risky. Communication channels were monitored, and traveling between systems required evading Imperial patrols. Someone would have to take the risk. Maria Lopez volunteered for the mission. Her skills as a pilot made her the best choice to lead a diplomatic effort to Proxima Centauri, one of the nearest colonized systems. The colonists there had endured harsh conditions under Imperial occupation, and Maria believed they might be willing to join the cause. With a small team and a stolen Imperial shuttle, she set off on the dangerous journey. The trip took days, during which Maria constantly monitored for signs of enemy ships. When they finally arrived, the colonists greeted them with suspicion. Years of oppression had taught them to trust no one, especially strangers claiming to offer freedom. Maria didn't give up. She spoke passionately about the Ashen Vanguard's victory at the Jupiter outpost and the Empire's brutal response on Earth. She shared stories of her brother's death and the suffering of countless others. Slowly, her words began to resonate with the local leaders. One of them, an older man named Samuel Drake, stepped forward. "We've been waiting for someone like you," he said, "someone brave enough to fight back." With his support, the colonists pledged their aid, offering ships, weapons, and volunteers. Meanwhile, Ryan Carter worked tirelessly to uncover more intelligence. While Maria was away, he hacked into classified Imperial databases, searching for weaknesses in their defenses. What he found was astonishing. A single relay station responsible for coordinating all military operations in the sector. Destroying it would cripple the Empire's ability to respond quickly to threats. It was heavily guarded, making it nearly impossible to attack directly, but Ryan believed it could be done with careful planning. When Maria returned with news of the colonists' support, the Ashen Vanguard grew stronger than ever. They now had allies beyond Earth, resources to build better weapons, and a target that could turn the tide of the war. But the Empire was still a formidable foe, and Admiral Stone was preparing his next move. Daniel knew the road ahead would be filled with danger, but he also knew they couldn't stop now. Humanity had taken its first steps toward freedom, and nothing, not even the full might of the Empire, would make them kneel again. The Ashen Vanguard knew their next move had to be bold. The relay station Ryan Carter had discovered was the key to crippling the Empire's ability to coordinate its forces. If they could destroy it, the Empire's grip on the sector would weaken significantly. But the station was heavily guarded, surrounded by layers of defenses that made it nearly impossible to approach. The mission would require precision, bravery, and a lot of luck. Daniel Hayes called a meeting with his core team to plan the operation. Maria Lopez, Ryan Carter, and Sarah Bennett sat around a makeshift table in their underground bunker, maps and schematics spread out before them. "We can't attack this place head-on," Daniel said, pointing to the relay station on the map. "Their defenses are too strong. We need to get inside without them knowing we're coming." Sarah spoke up, her voice calm but determined. "I can help with that. I used to work on stations like this one. If we disguise ourselves as Imperial personnel, we might be able to slip past their security." Her idea was risky, but it was their best chance. They decided to send a small strike team led by Sarah, while the rest of the fleet created a diversion nearby to draw attention away from the station. Preparing for the mission took days. Ryan worked tirelessly to create fake identification codes and uniforms that would pass inspection. Maria trained the pilots who would lead the diversion, ensuring they could hold their own against Imperial ships. Meanwhile, Daniel prepared the ground teams who would provide backup if things went wrong. Everyone knew the stakes. If the strike team failed, the Empire would crush them without mercy. On the day of the mission, tension filled the air. Sarah and her team boarded a stolen Imperial shuttle, their hearts pounding as they approached the relay station. The guards at the docking bay scanned their credentials, and for a moment, Sarah feared they would be caught. But Ryan's forged codes held up, and the team was allowed inside. Once through the checkpoint, they moved quickly, sticking to the shadows and avoiding patrols. Sarah guided them through the labyrinthine corridors, her knowledge of Imperial facilities proving invaluable. As they neared the control room, alarms suddenly blared. Someone had discovered their deception. Guards rushed toward them, weapons drawn. Sarah's team fought back, using the prototype plasma rifles Daniel had helped design. The corridors erupted in chaos, but Sarah kept her focus. She knew they had only minutes to complete their mission before reinforcements arrived. Inside the control room, Sarah found the main terminal. Her hands flew over the keyboard as she activated the self-destruct sequence. Warning lights flashed, and a robotic voice announced the countdown. 10 minutes until destruction. The team fought their way back through the station, pursued by waves of Imperial soldiers. Every step was a struggle, but they pushed forward, driven by the knowledge that failure wasn't an option. Outside, Maria and the fleet launched their diversion. Explosions lit up the sky as their ships clashed with Imperial forces. The battle raged fiercely, drawing the Empire's attention away from the relay station. It gave Sarah's team the time they needed to escape. With seconds to spare, they reached their shuttle and lifted off just as the station exploded in a brilliant flash of light. The destruction of the relay station sent shockwaves through the Empire's command structure. Without it, their ability to coordinate military operations across the sector was severely weakened. For the Ashen Vanguard, it was a major victory, but they knew the Empire wouldn't let it go unanswered. Admiral Stone was already planning his retaliation, determined to crush the rebellion once and for all. Back at their hidden base, the Ashen Vanguard celebrated their success. They had struck another blow against the Empire, proving that humanity still had the will to fight. But Daniel reminded everyone that the war was far from over. "This is just the beginning," he said. "The Empire will come after us harder than ever. We need to be ready." Despite the challenges ahead, the rebels felt a renewed sense of hope. Humanity had refused to kneel, and with each victory, the Empire's stars seemed just a little dimmer. With the relay station destroyed, the Ashen Vanguard had dealt a crippling blow to the Empire's ability to coordinate its forces. The victory gave them an advantage they hadn't had before: time. For the first time in months, the Empire's responses to rebel activity were slower, less organized. This gave Daniel Hayes and his team a chance to expand their reach and strengthen their cause. Maria Lopes continued her efforts to rally other oppressed worlds. Her success at Proxima Centauri had shown that people across the galaxy were ready to fight back. She traveled to several nearby systems, meeting with local leaders and sharing the story of the Ashen Vanguard. At first, many were hesitant. The Empire's reputation for ruthlessness was well known, and few wanted to risk their lives or the safety of their families. But Maria's passion and determination began to win them over. She spoke about Earth's suffering, the Empire's cruelty, and the hope that came with standing together. Slowly, more worlds pledged their support, sending ships, supplies, and volunteers to join the rebellion. Meanwhile, Ryan Carter worked tirelessly to exploit the chaos caused by the relay station's destruction. Without it, the Empire's communication network was fragmented, making it easier for Ryan to hack into their systems. He uncovered valuable information about troop movements, supply routes, and even secret Imperial projects. One discovery stood out: a massive weapons factory hidden on a remote moon. If the Ashen Vanguard could destroy it, they would deal another devastating blow to the Empire's war machine. Daniel knew the factory mission would be dangerous. It was heavily guarded, and the Empire would respond quickly if attacked. But with their growing numbers and resources, he believed they could pull it off. He gathered his core team to plan the operation. "We've got one shot at this," Daniel said, laying out the details. "If we succeed, we'll cripple their ability to produce weapons for months." Sarah Bennett volunteered to lead the ground assault. Her experience with Imperial facilities made her the perfect choice. Maria would command the fleet, ensuring the strike team could get in and out safely. Ryan stayed behind to monitor communications and provide real-time updates during the mission. On the day of the attack, the Ashen Vanguard launched their fleet toward the moon. Maria's pilots flew with precision, engaging Imperial ships while Sarah's team landed unnoticed on the surface. The factory loomed ahead, its defenses bristling with turrets and patrols. Using stolen codes and disguises, Sarah's team infiltrated the facility. Inside, they planted explosives in key areas, moving quickly to avoid detection. As they worked, alarms blared. The Empire had discovered the breach. Soldiers swarmed the corridors, forcing Sarah's team to fight their way back. Every step was a struggle, but they pressed on, driven by the knowledge that failure wasn't an option. Outside, Maria's fleet fought fiercely, holding off waves of Imperial reinforcements. Explosions lit up the sky as ships clashed in orbit. Finally, Sarah's team reached their extraction point. With seconds to spare, they detonated the explosives. The factory erupted in flames, its destruction visible from space. As their shuttle lifted off, cheers erupted among the rebels. They had done it. The Empire's weapons production was in ruins. Back at their base, the Ashen Vanguard celebrated another victory. Their ranks were growing, their resolve stronger than ever. But Daniel reminded everyone that the Empire wouldn't give up easily. Admiral Stone was still out there, planning his next move. The war was far from over, but for now, humanity had struck another blow against tyranny. The stars above seemed just a little brighter, proof that even in the darkest times, hope could burn like fire. The destruction of the weapons factory was a turning point for the Ashen Vanguard. News of their success spread quickly, inspiring more people across the galaxy to join the rebellion. Entire planetary militias pledged their support, bringing with them ships, soldiers, and resources. The Empire's grip on its territories was beginning to weaken, and Daniel Hayes knew they had to keep pushing forward. But he also knew that the Empire wouldn't stay divided forever. Admiral Stone was already planning his counterattack, determined to crush the rebellion once and for all. Daniel gathered his team to discuss their next move. "We've hit them hard," he said, looking around at Maria Lopez, Ryan Carter, and Sarah Bennett. "But we can't stop now. If we want to win this war, we need to strike where it hurts the most. Their command centers." He pointed to a map of the sector displayed on a screen. "This is the Empire's central headquarters in this region. If we take it out, we'll cut off their ability to control everything around here." The plan was risky. The headquarters was located on a heavily fortified space station orbiting Saturn. It was surrounded by layers of defenses, including fighter squadrons, missile batteries, and elite Imperial troops. Attacking it directly would be suicide. But Daniel had an idea, one that required coordination, courage, and a little bit of luck. Maria took charge of organizing the fleet. She trained pilots from newly allied worlds, teaching them how to fight as a single unit. "We're outnumbered," she told them during one briefing. "But we've got something they don't. Heart. Remember why we're fighting. For freedom. For justice. For everyone they've hurt." Her words inspired the volunteers, many of whom had never seen combat before. Ryan focused on gathering intelligence. Using his hacking skills, he infiltrated Imperial networks, searching for weaknesses in the station's defenses. What he found was surprising. A small maintenance hatch on the station's underside that wasn't heavily guarded. It was too narrow for large ships, but big enough for a small strike team to slip through. The team could disable key systems from inside, giving the fleet a chance to breach the outer defenses. Sarah volunteered to lead the infiltration team. "I've done this before," she said confidently. "If anyone can get us in and out alive, "It's me." Daniel agreed, trusting her experience and determination. Together, they assembled a group of skilled fighters, equipping them with prototype weapons and stealth gear. On the day of the attack, the Ashen Vanguard launched their fleet toward Saturn. Maria led the charge, drawing the attention of Imperial forces, while Sarah's team sneaked into position. As explosions lit up the sky, Sarah guided her shuttle toward the maintenance hatch. With Ryan's help, they bypassed security systems and slipped inside unnoticed. Inside the station, chaos erupted as alarms blared and guards scrambled to respond. Sarah's team moved quickly, planting explosives in critical areas. They disabled power grids, communication systems, and defensive turrets, leaving the station vulnerable. Outside, Maria seized the opportunity, leading the fleet in a fierce assault on the weakened defenses. As the battle raged, Admiral Stone watched from the command center, his face red with fury. "Stop them," he shouted at his officers. But it was too late. Explosions rocked the station, and Sarah's team fought their way back to the extraction point. With seconds to spare, they escaped aboard their shuttle, just as the station collapsed in flames. Back at their base, the Ashen Vanguard celebrated another victory. The Empire's regional command center was gone, and their forces were in disarray. For the first time, humanity truly believed they could win. But Daniel reminded everyone that the war wasn't over yet. "We've come a long way," he said, "but the Empire will keep fighting. We have to be ready." Despite the challenges ahead, the rebels felt stronger than ever. Humanity had refused to kneel, and with each victory, the Empire's stars burned a little brighter, with the fire of hope. The destruction of the Empire's regional command center was a devastating blow. For weeks, the Ashen Vanguard celebrated their victory, knowing they had struck at the heart of Imperial control in the sector. But Daniel Hayes knew better than to let his guard down. The Empire was wounded, not defeated. Admiral Gregory Stone, furious and humiliated, was preparing his final gambit, a massive assault designed to crush the rebellion once and for all. Admiral Stone's plan was simple but overwhelming. He gathered the Empire's remaining fleet, including reinforcements from neighboring sectors, and set his sights on Earth. "This ends now," he declared to his officers. "We will annihilate their base, destroy their leadership, and make an example of them. No one defies the Empire and lives." His flagship, the Invincible Dawn, led the Armada as it descended upon Earth, its weapons primed for destruction. When news of the approaching fleet reached the Ashen Vanguard, tension filled their hidden underground base. Daniel called an emergency meeting with Maria Lopez, Ryan Carter, Sarah Bennett, and other key leaders. "This is it," Daniel said, his voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "They're coming for us, and they're bringing everything they've got. If we lose this fight, it's over." Maria spoke up first. "We can't face them head-on. They outnumber us, and their ships are stronger. We need a plan." Ryan nodded, already typing furiously on his computer. "I've been monitoring their movements," he said. "Their fleet is spread out across multiple formations. If we hit them in waves, we might be able to break their lines before they regroup." Sarah added her thoughts. "We should focus on their command ships, especially the Invincible Dawn. If we take out Admiral Stone, the rest of the fleet will fall into chaos." Everyone agreed. It was risky, but it was their best chance. The rebels prepared for the battle of their lives. Maria coordinated the fleet, dividing it into smaller groups that could strike quickly and retreat before the Empire could respond. Pilots trained tirelessly, learning new maneuvers to outwit the enemy. Meanwhile, Ryan worked on hacking into the Empire's systems, hoping to disable their targeting computers during the fight. On the ground, Daniel organized ground teams to defend the base in case the Empire managed to break through. The climactic battle took place above Saturn, where the Empire's fleet converged to trap the Ashen Vanguard. Outnumbered and outgunned, the rebels faced their darkest hour. Maria led the first wave of attacks, her ships darting between Imperial cruisers, firing plasma cannons, and launching torpedoes. Explosions lit up the sky as the two fleets clashed fiercely. But the Empire's numbers were overwhelming. Slowly, the rebels began to falter. Ships were destroyed, pilots lost, and hope seemed to fade. Just when it seemed like all was lost, unexpected reinforcements arrived. Entire planetary militias answering the call to arms. United under a common banner, humanity fought back with unrelenting fury. Daniel himself led a daring boarding action onto the Invincible Dawn, determined to confront Admiral Stone. With Sarah and a small team by his side, he fought his way through corridors filled with Imperial soldiers. The battle was brutal, every step a struggle, but Daniel pressed on, driven by the memory of his family and everyone the Empire had hurt. Finally, he reached the command center. Admiral Stone stood there, surrounded by guards. "You think you can win?" Stone sneered. "You're nothing but insects." But Daniel didn't hesitate. In a fierce duel, he defeated the Admiral, signaling the Empire's defeat. As the Invincible Dawn exploded in a brilliant blaze, cheers erupted across the galaxy. Humanity had refused to kneel, and in doing so, turned the Empire's stars to ash.